Hi, Rebecca.
You doing?
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming on. This is so exciting. It's in particular exciting for me because I've seen you in the Facebook groups for a long time. Like
Yep.
you've been, how long have you been in the original, the OG group, the big one?
Probably. I don't know when you started it. It feels like 2 years, but
Okay, yeah.
I think it's around the beginning. It was after another, and this is as a reader, another Facebook group had paused, that gave out all like the romantic fantasy, romantasy, some paranormal romance, and then I came upon yours, and you had everything I loved. So there was everything. So I've been. This is by far my favorite book rec group by far.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy to hear. That's cool because we try to make it a good place, like a book bestie feel, like
Oh, and
just where
that's it.
everyone's.
It's so positive, and no matter what your taste is in books, within that sphere of magical romance, you're going to get a ton of recs, which is awesome.
Yeah, a lot of people join the group and they'll say like their TBR list has just exploded,
Oh yeah.
Or like I get a lot of people join the group that aren't KU, and there's so many KU recs in the group. There's just so much love for indie authors in this group that
Hmm.
they say, okay, I've done it. I've bit the bullet. I'm KU, and then they love it, which is great, which is absolutely great. Okay, so I remember you in the group a lot because you're actually were in Author's Corner, right?
Yep.
Asking for tips and advice on being an author as you started this journey.
Yep.
And you just published your first book.
Yep.
How
Last
exciting is that?
Tuesday, the 26th.
The 26th. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going really well. I'm getting great feedback.
Okay.
It's super exciting. I'm ready for a nap, I'll say that much. But it's a lot of fun. It's crazy how many types of emotions you go through actually publishing a book. I'm sure this is every time you publish a book, but first time you kind of don't know what to expect, no matter how much you prepare. Things are gonna come up. But it was phenomenal, and I think by far my favorite part of it is getting like all the DMs from people telling them how much they love it, how much they enjoyed your book. It's so much fun to see that something you threw your like all of like I throw a lot of myself in my book, past experiences or some of your characteristics about yourself. You kind of throw those into your character. So to hear that people like enjoy that and love that and enjoy your stories, there's just like no other feeling. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's cool. It's awesome. And like I said, for me, it's just really cool to see somebody like join the groups and start writing through. They've always wanted to, but maybe the groups kind of inspired them, and they got some help and some feedback. And I saw different posts from you over time, and it's just so cool to see. And then now you did it. You're published.
I did. I
You
know
did.
it's like 20 years later. I
Yeah.
think I wrote my first somewhat book was when I was 9 or 10. I can't remember the exact age, but it was a Buffy fanfic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, so like, so I do want to, well, we are going to talk about your book, but I do want to say that there is a reading team for Fangirl Romance Rex that we have, and we do that because it's a long-winded story. I'm not going to bore everyone with it, but basically, there's a featured author spotlight in the group that gets on the newsletter and yada yada yada, and I pick out those authors, but there's only so many authors that I can read, right?
Yeah.
So we came up with this reading team that reads these books. And then if they love the books, they do a recommendation in the group for that author, which gives them some visibility. And then if they think it's something that I'm gonna love because they know what they've heard all kinds of stuff that I get into, they'll send it my way. And your book was sent my way, which was a huge, huge, like I think just compliment, like altogether, just it was amazing. And so I did start it. And let me tell you, the first chapter, it was amazing. You have to like, excuse me, I do not know what this is Florida. And I'm like, I told you before we started, I do not know what is okay, there we go. All right. Sorry. It's just driving me crazy.
Your hair
It's like
looks
popping up
good.
in
It
my
looks
face.
fantastic.
It's just you never know. Like, and it's raining outside. It's like outside the windows and all that. But yeah, I mean, like it's not often that a book is sent my way, and this one was, and the person who sent it to me, she's not a romance fantasy genre person. She's a paranormal romance person. And so the fact that she read it and she loved it, and she's like, Rebecca, you need to read this. That was really cool. That was
I
really,
know.
really
I
cool.
I did that whole girly squeal thing
Yeah.
when you messaged me like 2 days after I said it. You're like, she loved it. She read it like a day. I did. I did a really girly squeal, and might have freaked out my husband just a little bit. But
That's great. That's awesome. So tell us about it. What's the name of your book?
okay,
And
so
obviously we know it's romance fantasy, but show it to us and tell us.
yes, so this is To Bleed a Kingdom by Ella Dawes, me, duh, right?
Yay.
So it is a dark and quirky fantasy romance. It's set in the city of Saboya, and the city of Saboya has been closed off for over 30 years from the God's Curse, which is a neighboring kingdom, and their slaves, I guess, with their soulless slaves, which are like vampire, zombie-like creatures. So Saboya has closed itself off. They've got their walls, their borders. But our MMC Darius has noticed that there's like an increased activity with the soulless. So he's concerned that there is, something more sinister at play, that the God's Curse are working against him. So he pretty much is trying to convince the rulers of Saboya to look into this more and to see what's going on. But since the last attack, they're so fearful of inciting another battle, any issues with them, that they almost deny the obvious signs that trouble is to come. Um, and then, so he's the captain of the guard. He's trying to find out ways to prove to them that there is, trouble brewing. And then in comes our FMC, Lena. She is an outsider. She comes in with her group of friends. She comes in under pretending to be a merchant, but from the get go that she has another mission. She's an unreliable narrator, so you don't exactly know what's going on until she lets you in on it. And Darius it's not insta love, but it is definitely insta attraction between them. So she's a big distraction for him. He's the alpha possessive MMC, very territorial, morally gray, toucher and unalive type MMC. So, but there's a lot of tension. It is a slow burn. It builds up. The tension's super thick, but once they get to the spicy scene, it's pretty spicy. So,
Good.
but pretty much they get thrown together. They try to fight it the whole time.
Yeah,
And as
that's good.
secrets unravel and stuff, as secrets unravel, they end up being kind of forced together to deal with the issues going on. So there's lots of action, there's lots of secrets, there's spice, there's a big found family presence in there. So it's a very fun and humorous read. I will mention that you do need to read the content warnings. There are read the content warnings. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We're all readers. Just read that one page, because they do have a crass sense of humor, so kind of similar to like a Ruin of Roses type humor, or like Shelley
Okay.
Lawrence or G.A. Aiken. And there's some really dark events in there that people need to be aware of that could be triggering to many.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's
No,
fun, it's adventurous, lots of action, and sexy.
yeah. Good spice then. That's good. That's awesome. So when I picked it up and I started it, so I try to start all the books before I do a spotlight, and obviously this one was sent my way too. And there's just so many books out there to read. When I started it though, it's very good writing. And I
Thank
was
you.
blown, like I was pulled in immediately, like immediately. It's an action scene right at the
Yep,
beginning. Very action. And it's also, if you have triggers, you're going to get hit soon, like fast and early, right? So read the author's note, right,
we
with that,
do.
and not to give too many spoilers. But yeah, I loved it. I was really impressed, and I'm really anxious actually to get back to it.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah,
The
yeah,
one
it's
thing I
great.
would
I
like
really,
to point out is like with some of those triggers, they're not romanticized. I know some people like, that, but it's not romanticized. It's pivotal to the plot of the entire series and what the characters' motivations are from here on out, which is why it was done that way, I guess you could say. But yeah, I throw you right into it.
You do right off the bat. And I did notice too that you already have people giving you some really favorable reviews. Like I know, like I think you mentioned already on Amazon. I can't remember if you mentioned that before we start going live or during the live. I can't remember because we were talking earlier. But even in the Facebook group, in my Facebook group, I've seen people say that they love the book and
Yeah.
that they think it's as good as, what did they tell me? I'm trying to think. They think it's up there. I don't know if it was Fourth Wing they said, but they said it was up there in romance fantasies that they enjoyed just as much as they enjoyed. I
I
think
have not heard
not
that,
not
but
that it's like Fourth Wing. No, I read a comment about it because I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's a really amazing comment.
really,
Yeah, it must have been in the group. They were like, I really love this just as much as that. So that's a huge praise.
that's
Like
a
a
huge praise.
huge
I
praise.
mean,
Yeah.
I kind of it's shocking. I'm completely honored.
I swear I read
It's
it. I swear I
strange.
did because
It's strange. I'm so grateful, but it's strange to hear some of that stuff because I still got that imposter syndrome going on, because
yeah.
I've been a writer for forever, but I've been an author for barely a week. So,
Well, and it's, and I think during the panel would be a good thing to talk about the different genres. I know we kind of mentioned that maybe we would do that, but specifically because all three authors on the spotlight are so different, and then
mhm.
that way people watching can get an idea. But yeah, yours is a romance fantasy, and that's what I heard, anyways, when I on someone's comment, because Fourth Wing is also a romance fantasy, so different though. I mean, you don't have dragons, right? But different. So,
We'll
but anyway.
see. It's a 5-book series.
So, just before we close out here, what got you to start writing? I mean, I know I made some assumptions, but
Honestly, I don't know if it stemmed from like fairy tales that I read as a child and stuff. I have always enjoyed storytelling. I
mhm,
genuinely cannot remember when I first started writing. That was I know the first like full book I started writing, and that was and a 9-year-old size book where I was 9 or 10 then. It was more of an outlet. I mean, there's two things that always, when things were difficult, when I had trouble with anything, there was like two coping mechanisms, and there was humor, and then there was writing. And my mind's everywhere all the time. So I'm constantly creating stories. Like, I mean, I've got probably 30 books in my brain just right now that just kind of pop in there today, and I want to do it. So, I've always wanted to, I've always been a writer, and I think it was just like an outlet to kind of, to get through everything, to cope with certain things that you're not necessarily, it's the easiest way to escape, just like we do with reading. You read to escape. I write to escape as well as with reading. But now, it's more at the age I am now. It's so much fun, or it's more of, it doesn't feel like work, but it is, you're working on it now, if that makes sense.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, and stick around, obviously, for the authors panel.
No
But
problem.
thanks for coming on, and this was just so much fun to finally see you in person after all this time.
I know what you look like. I'm like, hi, bestie.
Well, funny story is when you first, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. When you first came on, we all meet the authors. I meet everybody ahead of time. And so Ella comes on. She's the first to join the studio before I went live. And I'm talking to her and I'm just blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was talking to Emily Shore. Her name says Ella because you talk to authors, but like I talk to a lot of authors, but you see their Facebook profile pictures. It's like this
Like the
big.
big.
It's and there you are, tiny on there. And then same thing with Ella too. And like your picture was kind of over her, like on this graphic on the screen. It was kind of like over her name, and my brain was just like, oh, that's Emily. So, yeah. And so
Honestly, I was relieved. I
with
was
you as Emily.
I was so relieved when you were like, wait, I thought you were someone else because I mean sometimes I have my ditzy moments, but I forget a lot
What
of
did she
things.
say?
So I'm just like, oh, okay, it wasn't me, it was her this time. So
And I figured it out. And then I had one of those moments where I was like, do I tell her or do I not tell her? Yep, I'm telling her.
oh, there you go. It made me feel better. I was like, phew.
Anyway, so thank you for coming on, Ella Dawes. Appreciate it. And we'll see you here in a minute.
All right.
I'm pulling you out. All right.